Hello, friends. The term lie in golf doesn't just refer to the creative reporting practices when you're telling your scorer what you did in the trees. It also refers to the way the ball is sitting on the ground, the lie. How is it in the grass? Is it bare grass? Is it firm, soft, longer grass? Is the grass leaning in one particular direction or another? These are generally referred to as the lie. But the one I want to talk about is the angle of the head of the club vis-a-vis the shaft and the ground for that matter. So uh, when I was an apprentice, we didn't have all sorts of fancy gauges and dials. We would first ascertain that the client whose clubs we were evaluating was standing correctly. And you have to do that with all of your equipment. If you're swinging poorly, standing badly, fitting clubs to those errors is just compounding the problem because essentially you have to stay with the wrong posture and technique. So if you're standing and swinging correctly, then when you adopt a posture in preparation to hit a golf ball, the way the club sits on the ground is the lie. And we used to slide a 2 shilling piece, about the size of a 50-cent piece, under the toe of the club when we were sure somebody was standing correctly. And it would slide about a third of the way down the club. What that suggests is that the toe of the club is off the ground, it's angled upwards. Now, logic suggests that we should put the club flat on the ground, but that actually turns out not to be true or beneficial. One of the reasons is that the shaft flexes not just in the obvious sideways manner as we're pulling down, but a little surprisingly, it flexes this way. And so the toe of the club is actually depressed as you go through the ball. And so we have to account for that in the way the club sets up. The additional reason is to do with contact with the ground, because an iron generally does, and the tendency of the alignment of the club face to be a little bit of a distortion. A club that looks square is only square if you're on flat ground. But if indeed you've got the ball above your feet, the ball's actually shooting to the left with a club that looks square. Well, it's referring to this element of lie in this regard. It, it is generally true that golfers default to the right. It's not random and it's certainly not equal. And a golfer who tends to go left, even though there are as many trees on that side of the course and it can be inconvenient, is generally doing a swing which is more effective and consistent. And so if you have the toe of the club a little high, you're favoring going a little bit left and a little less to the right. So it's beneficial in that regard as well. So uh, when you buy your clubs, they talk about 2 degrees upright, 2 degrees flat. Uh, Carsten Solheim, back 40 or 50 years ago, with his ping clubs, was one of the first people to actually offer a color coded system to give you the benefit of being able to choose. And it's interesting that it isn't always to do with your height. They used to measure the distance from your fingertips to the ground and have a chart that would suggest which one you should use. But I was, interestingly, although above average height, I had long arms, and it turned out that if I stood correctly, I actually warranted a 2 degree flat lie, which was what they called an orange lie. And so have a professional help you to decide, and maybe with a 2 shilling piece under the toe of the club.